Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
It really used to be easier. I used to be able to press a button on the thing, but now it's complicated. So, welcome to episode 169 of the Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast. Tonight we have Andy Mossey from the Woodstock Land Conservancy join us. Talk about some new trails you can explore and some old trails you can explore and what they do for the Catskills and for the Woodstock outlining Catskills area. So, welcome to the show, Andy.
Thanks, guys. Happy to be here.
Yeah, and glad you're going to be joining us for the whole show. We're putting this guy through the thick and thick.
I'm a fan of the show, so I'm just happy to be here.
Good, yeah. And Andy, I know we've met once or twice, maybe, and it was good to see you. And once again, I gotta say, I'm jealous of that beard.
Cheers, man. I feel like I've had a beard or at least a mustache since I was like 8. So now that I'm a little bit older in life, I'm glad it's still sticking around, even with the salt starting to peek through.
The salt, nice.
That's all I got.
I was gonna say, like, Tad's got salt all over the place. I'm starting to creep up. So once again, don't forget to vote on the Chronogrammys for us. Tad and I post it daily. GS Bar 1 and our podcast post it daily. Andy, are you involved in the Chronogrammys at all yet?
Yeah, heck yeah. Woodstock Land Conservancy. Check us out as your favorite environmental organization.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah, I'm on there voting every day, so we got to get people out and make sure that people are looking these things.
So you vote for us, we'll vote for you, stuff like that. All right, I'm going to go on.
Sounds like a deal.
Actually, right now and do it.
I'll do that.
Yeah. Also, June 14th, it has been confirmed, live show at the Mountaintop Historical Society at 2 p.m. So be there. We're going to talk about the Catskill Railroads. We're going to talk about the Catskill, the Mountaintop Historical Society. We're going to be going all out for that certain area of the mountaintop where we once had adjacent railroads joining everywhere from the Ulster and Delaware, from the Catskill Mountain House. Robert Titus is going to be there. We're going to have a bunch of different guests. As we get closer to the show, the live show, we're going to just break it down a little bit better and stuff like that. So it's going to be pretty awesome time. The live show, last time I did this, it was chaotic, but it was absolutely awesome because, we had awesome people there. We raised over $400. I don't know if we'll be doing that this time, but I think I might get that ball rolling of raising some money for the Catskills. And we'll see where it goes. It's just going to be crazy. I got my old 20-year-old PA system working with the laptop and everything, and I actually got it to record, and I'm just like, holy crap, this can actually work. Technology has come a long way where you can be adjacent to something that's 20 years old that I haven't used in, I would say, 15 years, and I got it to work. I was surprised. Tad was just like, you even said that was old, Tad.
Yeah, and I'm used to old stuff given my age.
Feel so bad. And that hurt when you said that. I'm just like, oh God. So also, as this episode airs, the great and wonderful Breakneck Ridge is closed. Everybody went up there this past 7 days, right? Tad, I saw everybody's was up there.
Yeah, it seems like everybody was getting up there to get a final hike in, and it was amazing with all the people posting on Instagram. It didn't seem like there was a lot of people in the backdrop, other hikers around them. So maybe it wasn't as crowded as one would think for the last week of hiking before the big do-over up there.
2 years.
Yeah.
2 years.
Crazy.
Wow. 2 years, that project, huh?
Yeah. What is it that takes 2 years to do, number one? And number two, could you imagine the level of outrage that we would have if they told us, okay, we're we're going to build a connector trail from Table to Lone to Rocky to Balsam Cap to Friday down to the Moon Hall. So we're shutting down those mountains for 2 years.
That would kind of piss me off.
Yeah, that would be a cause for a riot.
But I mean, we are not also, we have plan Bs somewhat. A lot of these people coming up from the city at Breakneck Ridge will stop, like we said, at that train station and then be like, oh crap, this is closed. What are we going to do now? Maybe they'll have kiosks and stuff like that, or trailhead stewards to kind of guide them and stuff like that to the proper places. But
yeah, I think so. New York, New Jersey Trail Conference has a bunch of stewards over there. And, Breakneck Ridge, epic trail, but it's one of the only things like it in that immediate area. Here in the Catskills, hike up any dang hill and whatever you want.
Yeah. And then you got Breakneck Ridge, which is one of I would say the most popular trail in the Hudson Valley, the most visited trail in the Hudson Valley. And that's why they're doing this. So it's cool, but stuff has to be done, especially with the flow of traffic, stuff like that. We've seen that here very seldomly in the Catskills. We're talking about the Blue Hole area. Nothing's done with Panther and Slide and stuff like that yet. Same thing with the Big Hollow area. And, it's just, it's a slow progress that's probably been worked on for a while, been coming along.
Oh yeah. From the land management perspective, all these projects take years to make happen because in a lot of cases, not only is it the plan that you're coming up with and talking to a lot of people to make sure it is a good plan, but then you got to get public involvement. So it takes a long time to see something like this come to fruition. And then, we're lucky in New York to have some really good trail builders. So I'm sure by the time Breakneck Ridge is done, it's going to be a complete all-star trail without a doubt.
Tad, you looking forward to it? You're a Hudson Valley guy.
Yeah, first of all, I've never done Breakneck Ridge, so I won't be able to do the compare and contrast, but I wonder from what I hear if it will be as fun and challenging as it was before. The view won't change, but will the experience change?
I mean, I'm guessing of course the parking capacity will change. And then, we have, of course, the trail will change probably to more switchback, less erosion, stuff like that, make it more formidable. And like Andy said, the hoops you got to jump through, Andy, you're dealing with this as well with the Land Conservancy, is just jumping through those hoops with New York State, with, maybe the DEC, other areas, the town, stuff like that. It takes a while and takes a lot of effort. I give you guys all to do that. It's got to be tough.
Yeah, indeed, it is. It all just takes time, and it's a labor of love. And really, it's just to get people outside and get access to these public lands. So the more that we can think about these trails now in a way that is a little bit more sustainable than how New York had the tradition of building trails in the past, which was, just for anyone who isn't aware, it's all fall line trail, a lot of the historical trails, right? It's straight up the mountain. That creates a lot of erosion. And so now we're starting to think about different ways that we can implement different trail building techniques and trailcraft to create much better and more sustainable trails in the future. But that process takes time, takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort, and you got to get those folks out there to get it done.
Correct. Yeah. And, thank you to everyone who's participated in that. And it's going to be interesting. 2 years, like we said, 2 years. How long has the Blue Hole been in process and stuff? I had a hike today where I was talking to somebody about the UMPs going on for a good long time. It'll come to mind of what we were talking about, how it's been since Tad, you probably know this, and Andy, you probably know the area is the Wagon Wheel. That UMP has been going on since 2019. So that's 6 years.
To open that up.
Yep. OSI, we're going to talk to them about that. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. Well, that's a fantastic area.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. So, also, once again, happy Earth Day. This is a good time to do this with Andy being on here talking about Earth Day on April 22nd and talking about land conservancy, land management, and stuff like that, and preserving our land. So, happy Earth Day. Tad just added that last second. That's why I did that after Breakneck Ridge.
Good job, Tad. Good
Yeah.
call. Happy Earth Day, guys.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll
Yeah.
drink to it later on.
I'm already
Sounds
drinking to
good.
it. So now this is pretty cool. So on the way down of my hike today, I got the Forest Ranger report, and there was freaking a lot of incidents in the Catskills. This is fantastic, and especially this one was absolutely fantastic. On April 17th, so 5 days ago on this recording, Raybrook Dispatch contacted Forest Ranger Peterson about a lost hiker on the Mink Hollow Trail of Sugarloaf Mountain. Now, the dispatcher guided the hiker back to the trail, but remained concerned. Ranger Peterson called the 61-year-old from New York City who told the ranger he was in good health and planned to continue hiking. When the Ranger Peterson learned the subject did not have a map and was unfamiliar with the area, the ranger suggested the hiker turn around and back to his vehicle. The hiker refused and said that he would call back if it got lost. So at 5:02 p.m., the hiker called back and reported that he was lost again. At 6 p.m., the Rangers Fox and Peterson located the subject and assisted him down to the trail of his vehicle. So twice, got lost at 3:55 and then lost at 5:02. Congratulations. This is the shame thing, right? This would be a shame. I can't steal that from Slasher Radio because I've already done that. So, shame. Wow. 61-year-old person. Mink Hollow is probably one of the shortest trails going up to Plateau and Sugarloaf, but it's brutal. I gotta admit, it's brutal, but still, it's
steep, but it's a trail, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're
Well,
already lost on the trail.
And at 5:02, we're hitting sunset. So
I don't know about that.
well, actually, you're right. Actually, 7.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, sorry, 7:00 right now.
Yeah.
Whoops.
You
Yeah,
got
7:46 is sunset tonight.
Good Lord. Okay, never mind. So, I mean, it's getting dark, but still, you should be able to see the blazes on there. That trail going down from the junction of Devil's Path down to Mink Hollow, very short. But I do got to admit the discs are a little bit far in between, and then there's some kind of little cascading brooks flowing in through there and out. So, but it still shouldn't be that difficult. Twice. So good jobs, Fox and Peterson. Amazing job.
I want to. Where do you get the cell service from?
You don't think there's self-service to Mink Hollow? That comes from...
Well, so first of all, Mink Hollow Trail actually runs, through from Woodstock all the way through to the Roaring Kill Road.
Correct.
So that's a pretty broad area for him to have been on. And if he's in the notch itself, that's where I kind of question cell service. So it'd be nice to know where he was, how far he made it in his hour and 12 minutes between phone calls, and how far did Ranger Peterson get away? Maybe he just sat in his truck in the parking lot waiting for call number 2 to come through. But
yeah, hopefully they weren't too far out. I mean, definitely major shout out to the Rangers for having the patience to go back out there.
yeah.
And to stick with the thing the dispatcher to say they're concerned that this person is not really equipped to handle this trail, and to tell the Rangers hey, you might want to keep an eye on this. And then unfortunately they had to go back. So, but that like you said, I think from either side you're looking at self-service coming down from Boyceville and stuff, from the Ashokan area, from Woodstock up in, and then you're coming down from Hunter. Hunter might be a little bit actually, because the ski area is blocked. So good point.
Yeah, well, but ski areas are usually a big target for cell usage. So there's probably a tower that's hitting Hunter Mountain proper, at least where the ski area is. But again, looking at my Gaia map here, I just wonder where he was and if he got cell service. And look, I got an interesting hike in my queue in that area. And so maybe I'll be able to do a cell service test and give us a full detailed single space report, by the end of spring.
Yeah. Well, it was 52 minutes it required to get him up in the thing. So crazy.
Hopefully he didn't have to press a PLB or something before taking off.
It didn't seem like that. I mean, a lot of people hopefully won't hit the POV, the SOS and the Catskills. So another thing that happened in Hunter. So on April 18th, a day later at 5:15 p.m., 4 forest rangers responded to a report of a hiker with an ankle injury on the Devil's Acre lean-to at Hunter Mountain. Rangers reached a 45-year-old in New Jersey at 8:30 p.m., so it took 3 hours to get up. The Rangers and members of Lexington and Prattsville Fire Department used a wheel litter over the icy terrain to return the hiker to the trailhead. Resources were clear at 3:45 a.m. Damn, that's a long night. So that's the question is 5:15, they 8:30. So I'm guessing they just came up the Jeep trail and then hauled them down the Jeep trail. But that's still a long time. They located them at 8:30, probably wrapped them up, got them warm and stuff like that, and then brought them down at 3:45. So that's like 7 hours later.
That's a long haul out.
That's insane. So
yeah. Well, we all know that terrain, and Stosh, you know what a wheeled litter is and how hard it is to maneuver it through there. So,
oh my. So I'm sorry. I the location was wrong on me. So they probably went up, of course, Devil's Path up to the Devil's Acre, and then just went back down Devil's Path. So that's it's going to be a BITCH.
Yeah. So what's interesting is where they were. They could have gotten them out by a chopper ride, right?
Yeah.
There's enough clearing around the lean-to.
Yeah. I mean, nighttime is a whole different story, though. So, I mean, they could have just hauled them up to Hunter Mountain and got enough clearing up there. I mean, that's not that far away.
Yeah. So interesting.
Interesting. So, once again, good job to the Rangers. And then again, on April 19th, so we're talking about, is that 3 straight days of rescues in the Catskills, which is very unheard of. This is usually the Adirondacks taking up this whole story. So on April 19th at 5 p.m., Forest Rangers Comerford, Fox, and Peterson again responded to a call from a hiker reporting that he was missing on the south side of Twin Mountain. Raybrook Dispatch provided coordinates, and the Rangers reached a 23-year-old from Brooklyn and assisted him back to the trailhead. Resources were cleared at 9:30, so 4.5 hours going up on the south side of Twin Mountain. So is that Pridger Road area?
I don't know. I mean, it says the south side of Twin. It doesn't say.
Oh, wait a minute. South is untrailed.
Yeah. So where was this fellow? Where was this man from Brooklyn? Interesting.
Indeed. Wow. Once again, that area is a little complex. Going even down. Let's go. That leads down to the area that I call like Stonehenge. I call it Catskill Henge, right across over there, and then it leads down into Brooklyn. Jeez, down into Woodstock. And that's a long haul. So I hope this guy didn't like come off the summit and get lost and stuff. It doesn't seem like they're lost, but 4.5 hours, that's a long time.
Yeah, I wonder if he just took a wrong turn at Pico Notch or something and then tripped his way down the valley.
That would suck.
Stosh, what we need to do is we need to get on the show the person who writes up these little ranger reports and give them a lesson on the meaningful stuff that we want. We want a little more detail than what they put in these little one paragraph.
Include some
items.
waypoints. Why not?
Yeah. On trail, off trail, was there alcohol or other intoxicants involved? I mean, it'd be nice to have some of these nitty gritty details here.
Yeah. And they could add a little bit more. I could reach out to Jeff Walker, or I could reach out to Jeff and see what he can give us, on sort of spicy stuff, because he's hooked us up with the Rangers before. So Jeff is a cool dude. So, all right. So the last little bit of news. This is in the Adirondacks. We're going out to the Adirondacks now. So 57-year-old missing hiker up on Seward Mountain in the Adirondacks. So if anybody in the Adirondacks knows this area, this is a brutal, crazy hike that goes up into one of the 46ers that you can complete. So on April 8th at 10:15 p.m., 10:15 p.m. at night, Raybrook Dispatch received a call from a subject concerned about a 57-year-old friend who was one day overdue from a hike on the Seward Seward Range. 6 Forest Rangers started searching at 2:30 a.m. So once again, that's 4 hours past when they called, and 12 more rangers later joined the search. One crew located the subject's snowshoe tracks after brushing through 4 inches of fresh snow. The rangers followed those tracks for 100 yards and continued in that direction. At 12:36 p.m., geez, now reading this timeline is absolutely insane. So 14 hours later, the Rangers located the subject at the Osuka Pass lean-to off the Northville Placid Trail. The hiker was tired but otherwise in good health. Rangers escorted the hiker back to the trailhead where he was met by a family member, and resources were clear at 4:52 p.m. Wow. Just the timeline of events shows you how brutal stuff can be. And, looking at this, the Adirondacks compared to kind of like the Whites and stuff, sorry to say, the Whites have it pretty easy to where they can go up and then back down in a matter of 4 miles. Whereas in the Adirondacks, it's brutally long distance. You got to go for a while, search and stuff like that. I know the Adirondacks don't have very good cell service, so once again, locating somebody is very difficult. So as like you're seeing, 10:15 call, 2:30 they started searching, 12:30 p.m. the next day they located him, and then 4:52 p.m. so 4 hours after that, almost 5 hours, they got him out. So that's wow.
That's a long few days. Wow, I don't envy that guy.
Yeah, good for him to survive that long by himself and to be in good health. So it's crazy to think about that. And like once again, we talked about that one guy that is still missing up on Allen Mountain. I heard they're starting to search for him up in Allen Mountain, and they might like close off that area, but
So Stash, you think they bring in dogs to search for that fellow? The one that's still up there?
That's a good question. I've heard that they could use dogs, but I know that the Rangers aren't big on canine because once again, canines are, I wouldn't say insufficient, but every canine has a different, I wouldn't say objective, but
Yeah, they're trained. Some are trained for explosives, others are trained for drugs, and some are trained for cadavers. And I would think that across the state, or even broader, that they must have enough cadaver dogs to get together 3, 4, 6 of them to bring up there and to do some level of search. I mean, I just feel for the parents, the family members that lost their son or brother up there.
Yeah, I mean,
what's happened.
Andy, you've ever been up to the Adirondack area, like 46 or stuff like that?
Oh yeah, totally. I went to school up at SUNY Plattsburgh and studied a program called Expeditionary Studies. So the Adirondacks were my classroom for my undergraduate years.
What would you say about this? That it's common to find something that would last this long and be this sort of a strenuous effort?
Well, I mean, I think you said it well. The Adirondacks are a wilderness area, and there's huge, vast areas. And if you get lost, regardless of how skilled you are, if you are genuinely lost, it can be pretty challenging, especially if you are injured. That wasn't the case here. But imagine, with all your expertise, all of a sudden you get injured on the side of a mountain, you're bushwhacking up some wilderness area. That's going to be pretty gnarly to get out of. So, kind of accept this risk when you have enough experience, but it's all a lot of risk that needs to be mitigated.
Yeah. And you're absolutely correct. And my friend and I, when we were hiking today, chatted about, how in the Catskills, we have it made where you can get lost and you just got to find yourself way down a drainage. You'll get some water that'll, supply you for 2 days, something like that. And then eventually you can reach somebody's house or a road or stuff like that, where it could be a 4-mile journey, where in the Adirondacks, good Lord, if you're out in the middle of like Mossey, or you're looking over towards more, I mean, not even Phelps, looking towards, I'm not 100% familiar. What's beyond Mossey to the west? I forgot.
That's like Colden, and
Yeah,
that's to the west. Yeah.
you head to the west of that. You're in the middle of absolute nowhere, and you're continuing to the absolute middle of nowhere. So,
Well, and it's like super technical terrain. I mean, that's the thing. One of the primary differences, in my opinion, between the Dax High Peaks region and the Catskills. We have some stuff that's steep, and I wouldn't necessarily want to be hanging off the side of some of our bluestone ledges that are crumbling away. But generally speaking, you can navigate a lot of that stuff as long as you know what you're doing. But even if you have a ton of skills in the Adirondacks, there's some terrain that can really mess you up.
correct. Yeah, it's scary. And that's why, once again, I don't want to go to the Adirondacks. I don't want to get lost and be one of these stories on a mediocre podcast or even just a fancy podcast. So I'm just shaming once again.
I mean, you could be famous.
If I take that much time to get out.
Stosh will be known as Green Boots.
Oh,
Was that bad? Was that like insensitive on my part? Probably
no,
so.
he knew the
Yeah.
risk when he went up to
Yeah.
Everest, man. He knew that risk. So
Yeah, we'd come up and get you, buddy. We wouldn't let you spend too much time up there. We'd haul you out, give you a proper burial.
well, thank you. Andy would know the area, so I
Yeah.
would trust Andy.
Yeah, we'd spread your ashes at the Blue Hole
Oh man.
and have a
that-
nice barbecue afterwards.
That's horrible. I would not want to be spread there. Spread me on the new 80 area, 80 parking lot area. So I'm good. Thanks. I'll appreciate it. All right. So thanks for shooting the shiznit, guys. Appreciate it. So let's get on to the awesome monthly supporters of the show, Chris Kirby and Jeff Jotz, Vicky Ferro, Mikey S., John Comiskey, Summit Seekers, Desert City Radio, Betsy A., Denise W., Tom Who's, Vanessa, Jim C., and Eric. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show. Really appreciate it. Once again, these people that are supporting the show and the sponsors aren't putting in the show. They're putting back in the Catskills. And it's going to be an awesome time when we put back in the Catskills. So once again, let's thank the sponsors, Outdoor Chronicles Photography. So capture your love story against breathtaking backdrops with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondack, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect unique bond in nature's grandeur. Embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on app platforms. She is starting her calendar, so check her out. It's absolutely stunning stuff. Instagram, Facebook, she has everything. Also, Trail Brown Project. Discover the wilderness with Trail Brown Project. Our expert-led hiking and backpacking education programs offer unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or a seasoned adventurer, join us for essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with Trail Brown Project and unlock the wonders of the great outdoors. So May 31st, they have Wilderness First Aid, and then June 21st, they have Bushwhacking Intro Part 1 of 4. So you can get taught of crazy different bushwhacking skills that I remember them talking to me about, that you can go from anything from just bushwhacking off of an easy little peak to bushwhacking and some of the craziest stuff that I did today. So check out Trailbound Project. Fantastic stuff. So who's outdoors? So mention podcasts on one of your hikes through social media, and we'll chat about it on our fantastic show. Tag us by typing at ITL Catskill MTN podcast on your post. So Kim Levinsky, our previous guest, was on the escarpment trail running around with a guy that I think was doing like the 100th highest in a record time. Was that correct, Ted? Did I see that correct?
My sense is he was running 100 miles through the Catskills. And
Okay.
I forget what the course was called. Whether it was like, the Wall of Manitou or the Manitou's Revenge, but it was some 100 miler. And she and some other folks were helping this guy do it.
Crazy.
And it looked brutal. It just looked like, ouch.
It looked good.
Yeah, but good for them helping him, and kudos to him for, stepping up and doing that challenge.
I just cracked open beer. Sorry. All right. So yeah.
Shame.
No, not at all. Kim cracked open a beer for you. Thank you once again. Hopefully your show, your little film, it does great out there. It looks fantastic. So, also Doggy Docty, new Terry, has hiked Eagle Mountain twice in the 48 hours. Once with 10 sketchy water crossings. Second time with a bushwhack up Eagle and down Balsam. Cold snow remnants and then 80 degrees in shorts. And then she said she needs some Gatorade. So Ted, you were involved with this, right? I think this whole thing was involved with you.
Yeah, this is kind of like, my recent hike right here. Doggy Doc T, who I had never met before, but Doggy Doc T, aka Terry, very cool person. I guess she hikes a lot in the Harriman area and that Hudson Valley area surrounding it and does a lot of backpacking, but she was up twice, like she says, in 48 hours to do Eagle and Balsam. And Jeff Jotz was also part of the gang. He was with his dog. Also,
and who else?
Well, and Tom Hoos of Who's Outdoors fame, as well as hiker Joe NY and Val Goes Hiking. So they were all part of that 6-person crew. I kind of made a surprise visit and joined them. It was a lot of fun. They were all very, competent and capable hikers. So I don't know if you want to hear my report on it, but
wasn't Joanne there?
Yes, and Joanne, I guess.
Beyond Blazes.
Beyond Blazes was there as well. Yeah, we had a total of 7 people. That is the most people I have hiked with since pre-COVID.
Wow. Crazy. And we'll talk about that later. Now everybody's saying, they were up there with you and had a great time and stuff. So a bunch of other, Jesus. So Jay Bach 223 took a run starting at Catskill Falls, checked out the North Trails at Ashley Falls, beautiful area. Bunch of smaller falls up North Mountain, Stopple Point, Arizona Mountain. Didn't see a single person until they hit mile 13. Unfortunately, they'd never explored that section, which is a phenomenal section going between Stopple Point and Blackhead. I love that area. Returned along the escarpment, hit all the great North Salt Lake spot. And he said that he was listening to saved episodes of the podcast while on the trails is his new favorite thing. So it keeps the mountain lions away, which I agree. It's so bad that it keeps the mountain lions away.
Well, maybe that's the purpose of that intro music, right? It's better than probably bear or mountain lion spray. If you're being charged by a mother bear or a raging mountain lion, just play the intro music for the podcast, I guarantee.
Yeah. Andy, what are your thoughts about that intro the intro to the podcast?
Yeah, I mean, it's more effective than bear spray. So,
is it too heavy? It's like everybody says it's too heavy. Not everybody, but
I mean, I like it. I think it sets the tone. It gets you right in.
Yeah, good. We're not messing around here.
Not messing around here. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. No bear spray required.
Yeah, definitely. So once again, hitting that area, the escarpment, Stopple Point across Arizona Mountain is absolutely beautiful. One of the most stunning areas in the Catskills. Actually, that's a brutal climb going down Stopple Point and then up to Arizona is a brutal climb that's like unexpected. So I love that area. So
yeah, I mean, what the thing about the escarpment is because you really don't have any high peaks there on a list. It doesn't get traffic in that section, and that's part of the reason why it's just a divine area to go and hike and explore.
Yeah, totally agree. That's one of those nice hidden gems.
Yep. Yeah, my dog is barking. That's why I mute once in a while. But I keep forgetting that area. Dutcher's Notch. Going up from Dutcher's Notch to Arizona is brutal as heck. It's so steep within that I would say not even, it's like a mile, not even a mile. But it's absolutely phenomenal. Dutcher's Notch is an old log road, but it's still fantastic. Then you hit the cross section of Colgate Lake and Dutcher's Notch, and you go up Arizona. It's just brutal, awesome.
You mean hiking up from Dutcher's Notch from the bottom of the escarpment?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's just very unique terrain, in my opinion. It's different than what you find elsewhere in the Catskills.
Correct. And that's why people should explore it. Go over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Also, Pink Pony 818, once again, Tracy, went to a dead-end road in Lakeville. You said to find the Lakeville reservoirs in the Yoakum Preserve, which I got to do my research. I have no clue where this is. Tad, do you have a clue where this is?
Well, I'm going to ask my research assistant.
You do that right now, and I will continue. This is a
Mr.
beautiful
Google.
loop trail, a little bushwhack to the summit of Mount Riga, and you can bag a peak in 5.5 miles, peace and quiet, no peoples, beautiful Burton Brook, and a gorgeous bridge. So, good time for Pink Pony is out there every freaking day. I'm jealous as heck. Good Lord, I need to get an amazing retirement, but that'll never happen to me. I'll be working till I'm dead. So, any luck?
Yeah, so this is over in Connecticut, and
Nice.
Yeah, looks like they've got some interesting stuff, water crossings, ridges, things like that.
Nice. Good for her. Rip it up. Oh yeah, I see that. Yep, definitely right over the border of the area. So
Yeah,
cool.
and as we see in many of these areas in the Northeast, this hiking area is not that far away from a couple reservoirs.
Yeah.
So that's probably back when is what was the prompting factor to preserve the area around it as a no-build area was that it became a public water supply.
Yeah. We definitely learned that in previous episodes with people who spoke about the water or the reservoirs. Yeah, definitely. So once again, thank you everybody for tagging us in the show. That was a great time. Everybody's getting out with the spring weather and such like that. Once again, buy us a hard cider to support the show. If you think we're doing a good job, you want to support us, go on Buy Me a Coffee. I say it's Buy Me a Cider because I changed it because Tad doesn't drink coffee that much anymore. So he usually drinks somewhat, but he's now, of course,
coffee tonight.
Yeah. So rate the show also. Go on any of your social platforms and stuff and rate the show. 5 stars is great. 4 stars is not cool. So 1 star is horrible. So who's having something to drink tonight? That's the thing. So who's going to go first?
Yeah.
Andy, go ahead. What do you got?
I got some Westkill Rookie.
Oh,
Classy.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. You like it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Westkill is such a good brewery here in the Catskills too. So, got to represent local brews, and honestly, one of my favorite breweries in the state.
I got to agree. Middle of freaking nowhere. One of those breweries that just absolute middle of nowhere.
I had my first brookie on the summit of Cornell after a very challenging but fun bushwhack up to the summit. Davis packed in a couple brookies, and nothing tastes better than a cold beer at the summit.
That sounds perfect.
Yeah, right. Davis was actually going heavyweight on that one. That's usually lightweight.
What's that?
Like packing absolutely nothing, and he brought 2 brookies.
Oh no, he packs some gear. He comes well equipped.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, he comes well equipped with like a pretty broad assemblage of fluids and foods. So he's got his hiking game down. He's been around. He knows what he's doing.
True. So I am having a Hudson North Big Pineapple because the amazing people at Hudson North, Kyle and Say, sent me a whole package of Hudson North ciders because we're going to be having them on the show soon. So, I mean, I can't get this stuff up here in Oneonta, and they send me a great package of just a bunch of stuff, and I was ecstatic when I got it. I was suspecting a 4-pack, and they send me, I think it was like 4 6-packs.
Yeah, I heard it was like an 18-wheeler pulled up to deliver that thing.
I feel sorry for the UPS guy.
Yeah, it was like a big delivery. Okay, so I'm going to crack, well, I'll crack it open now, but I was going to start my, later on, I have the last of my Westkill Dead Rabbit Dry Irish Stouts. And I thought I would finish it off tonight because Dead Rabbit, I mean, somewhat in honor of the Pope who just passed away.
Or Easter, yeah, that's a little bit morbid.
Yeah, and also because this past weekend was Easter, and this has got a kind of a funky looking rabbit on it. So here's my tribute to the dead Easter bunny, the dead Pope, with my Dead Rabbit dry Irish stout from Westkill.
Cheers, guys.
Yeah, cheers. I'm gonna try to do this. This is another Hudson North. I usually have two, so that went all over the microphone. Sweet. Whatever.
We heard nothing.
Heard nothing.
That means you have to chug it and open another.
This is a big
Try
apple
again.
one.
Yeah. So
Ooh,
just
that smells
down
good.
it. Just shotgun that.
Well, I have the big pineapple one, so
Why don't you just get one of those long straws and put it in the case?
that's a good idea.
Yeah.
So, all right. So let's move on to previous hikes. Andy, you said you have the previous hikes. Let's go. You can go 2 weeks. It doesn't matter. And I know, I have a feeling you were like scouting a new trail for the Woodstock Land Conservancy, correct?
Yeah, totally. That was absolutely the last trail I was on. So we're opening a new preserve. Now it's going to be called Rock Oak Preserve over in West Hurley, right next to the Ashokan Reservoir. Beautiful location, super historic. An old railroad cut goes through it. So lots of really interesting historical features on this property. It's really cool. Yeah. And so we're in the process right now of implementing our trail design. So we're going around the trails and, building it. And we actually were working with the Haas and getting those folks out there. And so they put in some amazing switchbacks. And yeah, just getting ready to finish it up. And hopefully in the next couple months or so, we'll be open for the public to enjoy as well.
Fantastic. You're working with Tahoe's Trail Crew?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. Like the knowledge that they carry is just astronomical. Be like, oh yeah, we put a switchback. No, it's actually really good to put it over here because the erosion is like going to happen less. And you're just like, God damn.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's amazing. They have a wealth of knowledge. Everyone on that crew is so awesome too. They're just super rad people. And, they show up and we're like, hey, we have this idea. And they always say like, oh, well, you could do this or do that, make it a little bit better. I mean, that's what you're looking for sure.
Yeah. So this is over in West Hurley?
It is. Yep. Technically inside the line.
Oh, nice. Oh, well done, Andy. See, this is why I had him on here. So now what can you tell us like details with like somewhat like estimated distance, elevation gain, stuff like that?
It's going to be a pretty short one. It's kind of like a pocket park in some ways. So it'll be, I think, like a mile and a half all said and done with the trails that are in there. So there's one out and back down that railroad cut that I was talking about before. And then we have another loop trail. And the loop trail is pretty sweet because you go up these nice switchbacks, maybe, I don't know, 100, 200 feet at most. You get to the top of a beautiful plateau, go through some glacial erratics, and then eventually you get to basically like a escarpment type area. So just some rock bluffs and outcroppings. And you get some really beautiful views of the greater Bluestone Wild Forest, which will be pretty awesome for folks to check out.
Wow. Sounds like a great family hike, especially to promote.
Yeah, totally. Most of our preserves are kind of like that. It's like great for the whole family. Abilities of all ages can get out there and check it out.
Yeah. Awesome. Looking forward to it. Anything else you want to like mention that you've done any brutal hikes that you've done, or has it been all Land Conservancy stuff?
Lately, mostly Land Conservancy stuff, but I've done some of the 35s in the winter, and that's where it's at.
I know, right? That's where life is. I would say like paused and stuff like that. You just want to just sit there forever. So good. Glad you're getting out to the high peaks and glad you're getting to the lower areas and scouting out these places for us and giving us some new places to explore. It's fantastic. Looking forward to it. Definitely looking forward to it. So Chad, you want to go on with your little excavation?
Oh yeah, so we'll skip back up to Saturday's hike with Tom Hoos and his crew. that we mentioned before, but I saw that Tom had posted on his Insta feed that he was putting together or a co-organizer of that hike on Saturday, which was out of McKinley Hollow, basically a bushwhack up the ridge that goes to the summit of Eagle, trail from Eagle over to Balsam, and then from Balsam, bushwhack back down to McKinley Hollow. So Tom put this together as part of, he's trying to do a full round of the Catskill 3500 as social hikes. So like I said, I saw that. I pinged him a couple times to get some details. Didn't commit to hiking with them. Showed up on Saturday morning, somewhat unannounced. And the crew everybody was on time and ready to go. We set out, crossed the bridge, and we went up this ridge to Eagle a different way than I had been before. But basically they found an old bark road that took us into the center of this drainage and then up over the shoulder of that ridge to the high point of the ridge and went up to Eagle. That whole stretch is significant in my opinion because it's the longest stretch of first growth forest in the Catskills, according to none other than Mike Kudish. For those of you who don't know, first growth forest area is that area that's not classified as first growth by the size of the trees, but by the fact that the area has not been disturbed by human activity, no logging, no clearing, hasn't been barked, burnt, or directly altered by human activity. So we hung out at the sign-in at Eagle. A couple other hikers came along. We chatted with them, and then it was off to Balsam Mountain. I'll just note that this time of year, there's no canopy. There's no leaf growth on these trees. So when you get up there, it doesn't really cool down. If anything, you feel warmer because you've been putting out some energy. And you need to be mindful to bring a lot of fluids because you're not used to, having to focus on hydration during the winter. So make sure you pack in extra fluids. Joe of Hiker Joe NY did go dry with fluids, but he did have with him this Katahdin Be-Free collapsible water bottle with the built-in filter, which he used. It seemed to work really well. I'm also going to give a shout out to our friend Joe, because I didn't know this until the end of the hike. I had forgotten that he recently had foot surgery. So he did this almost 8-mile, 2,600 vertical foot of gain comeback hike from being laid up for a little while with a foot that was recovering from the surgery. The other thing I'll point out before Stosh hits me with some questions is on the way back, my white Jeep got pelted with millions of bugs.
Yeah.
The whole front of it was almost black. Maybe I'll post a picture. But that reminds me that you got to be prepared. Bug season's going to be, here any week now. So pack your bug net and bring your tick and bug spray so you don't get eaten alive out there. So just in sum, I hiked with 6 other folks and it was a lot of fun. They were a really good crew. Recommend hiking with them anytime they go out. Join them. Have fun.
Yeah, it's called as social hikes, right?
Yeah, he does these social hikes. He does them up here in the Cats. He does them down in the Delaware Water Gap area. I'm sure he'll be going other places. Sometimes he'll have his dog with him. But this was the first time I hiked with him and any of these folks. And it was a lot of camaraderie there. And I guess one of the things that I put, just because a lot of people think about this, is nobody gets dropped on his hike. They wait up for everybody. They have a good time. So yeah. You want to get out in the Catskills with a different crew, do some bushwhacking, learn from people that know what they're doing. Go hook up with Tom Hoos, Joanne, Joe, Jeff Jotz.
The gang.
Yeah, the gang.
Sounds like a good crew.
Yeah, right. And that's the good thing with these social group and stuff. Everybody looks out for each other. Everybody goes at the pace that we feel they all feel comfortable with, that everybody sticks together and we can all chat and stuff like that. That's a fantastic thing with that. And that's why, I like these groups different from other groups, is that everybody looks out for each other and such. And, Tad, you talked about the bugs, and it is starting. And all I can say, it sounds like we should be saying from Lord of the Rings, Theoden, and so it begins. Because my windshield was absolutely covered after driving today.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and that's the time where you're just like, God damn, here we go. The black flies and stuff like that.
Yeah. So basically what I'm hearing is last weekend we had that lovely snowstorm and we got like that last encore performance of winter. This weekend, no bugs up in the mountains. But next weekend, will they be there? Is that when the honeymoon's over next weekend, or we get one more weekend before?
I'm not sure.
Out? Yeah,
Maybe one more. Yeah, it's possible. I mean, I was looking at the Burroughs Range today as I was going across the reservoir, and I could see the tree line, the leaf line as those leaves are coming in, starting to creep up the hillside. So, that's usually a good indicator. Once you get those leaves popping through, then so do the bugs.
I was going to say, usually you say shit hits the fan, but the bugs hit the fan.
The bugs hit the fan in this case, for sure.
And the bugs hit your face, and you're just miserable for that week and a half, 2 weeks.
Yeah, well, they eat your face. They just don't hit it. They take little nibbles out of your face.
Correct.
And then if you work, with others during the week, if you're not working at home, if you go to work with others, they kind of look at you and wonder, what is it?
Yeah.
Do you have like a new disease? Yeah. Is this the next pandemic? Do you have measles? What's going on?
That's
what
horrible.
happened to Andy? So.
Yeah. It's it's dry right now, so let's get out there while you can without these bugs. So I went out Sunday afternoon. I did Bramley Mountain close to me. I did that a little late and stuff like that. It was, I bushwhacked up the north side of Bramley Mountain, and then I came back down the trail of Bramley. Got beautiful views to the south, of course, with Bramley Mountain. You get that beautiful outcrop of, it seriously feels like Wittenberg. Looking over, you can see Slide, Westkill, Blackhead, not Blackhead, Westkill, Bear Pen, Graham, Double Top, stuff like that. It just feels like an incredible outcrop. It's like 45 degrees. Winds were gusting up to like 40, 50 miles an hour. Just a fantastic day of where you would sweat and then it would dry off and you'd be a little cold and you keep moving. And it was just one of those days that I appreciate. I got out for a couple hours. I was able to enjoy it and such. And Bramley Mountain, I can't wait so there's some reason why the fire tower cannot be accessible unless a steward is there. So I didn't get to climb up that, but you still get a phenomenal view because they had to cut a lot for the fire tower to be put up there. So it opened up the view fantastic. And I appreciate that's only 30 minutes away from me, and it's a brutal hike. I got to admit, I think in like 0.8 miles, it's 800 feet a gain. So 100 feet per 0.1 miles is pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty intense.
You go there a lot, right, Stosh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Have you bushwhacked up all sides of it now?
I can't access the southern side because that's private property.
Gotcha. But you basically you beaten up and down every which way except the private way.
I can say that I've been up there and bushwhacked up there more than Jim Boughton has.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
Jesus, who can say that, right?
Wow. Yeah.
I found a sign up there that said, I don't know if it said one way. It was like right in the middle of the mountain that said one way. Or it said I forgot, it said something really weird. I'm just like, this is a little odd for a sign. And then up a little bit further, it had a sign that instead of pointing like left or right, it pointed straight up. And it was embedded in the tree. The tree was growing over it. So this was old back in the day. I mean, they had a fire tower back in the 1950s up there. So it was old log roads all over the place. It's very, very historical.
Yeah, the tower they put up, I thought was the tower that was originally there, and some local person bought it, disassembled it, put it in their yard or something, just disassembled, but, staged it there. And
Yeah,
here
and then
we
sold
are.
it back to us. Yeah,
Yeah.
for I think it was $1. Like, it's fantastic, and it, like I said, it's great for the area because the nearest fire tower is Balsam Lake from there, and that's I would say I wouldn't say 40 miles, 30, 40 miles of driving.
Mhm.
So, and then from there, Jesus, I can't even, the Mount Unseantha is accessible, but it's few and far between to get a view of the Catskills where I live, because we have 2,600 foot peaks, and it's just all private property and stuff like that. It's just democracy and stuff like that. Like, people, they're starting to log a lot. I'm seeing a lot of logging. People are logging a lot of stuff up there. So, but
Yeah.
with going up there Sunday, I thought bushwhacking, it was still dry as heck. Even though we've gotten all this weather, this snow, this somewhat rain here and there, I thought bushwhacking, it was dry as heck. And today, bushwhacking, when I went up the area that I went up, that I'll talk about in a second, it was still dry as heck. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I'll echo those comments. I felt that on Saturday you could literally smell that like fall dryness in the leaves, that everything was just, bone dry, and the trails were dry. We were lucky where we found water where we did on the side of the mountain. But
yeah, Andy, being over on the eastern side, it's probably pretty dry over there as well.
Yeah, it is. It depends on where you are, I guess. As you go up in elevation, you certainly see a lot more of it. But, the creeks around here are healthy. They're not overflowing as they do in the springtime, but they do have healthy flow right now. But, that's one of the reasons why the burn ban exists, is because just the vegetation here needs a lot more water for things to actually get saturated.
Yeah. And then if you're on trail and stuff like that, I got to admit, it's still pretty dry. So, once again, be careful with what you're doing and stuff like that. So, especially if you're down in lower elevations, be cautious. So also today, so I just got back 3 hours from a hike that I went up to Slide Mountain. We took the Curtis Olmsbury Trail to the summit, and then from the summit we bushwhacked to a viewpoint that my friend likes to call Russin's Roost. And he named this after me because I found this spot. And I don't know if I was one of the first to find it or some other people find it, but I'm pretty sure Jim Boughton said he's never been up there. So I'm kind of like, I might have been, you never know. But getting to this spot at this point of day, it overlooks, I'm not saying it's like not the Divide, but Cornell, Friday. It's just all the bushwhacking range. Getting up there at this time of year and seeing the terrain, there's nothing on the trees. Seeing going up to Lone and Rocky, if you want to go up the Fisher, oh God, what is it called, Ted? I'm sorry, I'm like blanking out.
the Fisherman's Path.
Yes, the Fisherman's Path, seeing that, and then going up, that little herd path going up to Lone and stuff like that. It's just seeing this whole area of the Neversink is unique. I'm going to say, of course, Andy's on here. He's representing somebody unique AF. And it's just one of those areas that you are mesmerized by the landscape. And I brought my friend James Hobson up there. If anybody's ever heard of James Hobson, they call him the ledge finder. He's a ledge hunter. He searches for views and he finds them. And he will share them with the people he thinks he knows, like me and stuff like that. And he's blue lined a lot of stuff. So Tad, a lot of the stuff you've done, he's done. So I just going up with this Catskill legend and hearing his stories. He's also an Adirondack legend. He's done, I forgot what it's called up in the Adirondacks. It's like the 300 highest peaks in the Adirondacks. It's just insane of what he's done and hearing his stories. But I got to admit, that Curtis Olmsbury Trail is magical. just going up through like some of the balsams, dipping a little bit lower, and then going up through hardwoods, then back into the balsams, just makes that Catskill experience significant. It's worth the extra mileage. And I was just blown away once again by going off trail. I was surprised by how I described this bushwhack going from point A to point B as an Adirondack style bushwhack, where there was blowdown everywhere. There was just, it was crazy. I gotta admit, I hate to compliment myself, but my navigational skills were precise on this. And it wasn't a lot of blood. There wasn't a lot of gore. There wasn't a lot of swear words. And
whoa. If there's no gore, no blood, no cursing, is it a bushwhack?
I knew you were going to.
Andy, why don't you chime in? What do you think? There's no blood.
I mean, I prefer to bushwhack in the winter, and usually it's my clothes that take the beating, and so you gotta get at least a ripped jacket or something.
Yeah, I mean, Stosh, I mean, you can lean forward into the camera. I don't see any gashes. I don't see.
It's right here.
I don't see any like sticks in your hair sticking out. So
I took a shower. Now that's when you find the true bushwhacking time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
What way did you go down again? You took the Curtis Ormsby up, and then on your way
we just
down.
went down the regular slide down.
Oh,
we met 4 people, and I preached about the podcast.
So you bushwhacked from the summit area over to the lookout,
the outcrop. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
And my friend James has never been there, and he has explored the Neversink going up to Friday, finding the Friday Balsam Cap area, finding the headwaters, and then he's also done the Neversink going up to Cornell Slide area. So, and he's said he's never seen this outcrop, and it's just to hear that from a guy who has explored the Catskills and showed me so many ledges, shown me so many areas. Just he was excited. So
yeah,
you've been there, Tad, right? I showed you that.
Yeah, I'll say in the winter of 23, 24, and probably I'll even compare it to this winter. That was the only time that I've actually been cold on a hike, was going over there, because, as you say, although from the summit it's not all that far, you're going through a relatively dense spruce forest. There's spots where there's a lot of new growth spruce trees, and so when you're going through there, you're in the thick of the live or fresh growth. It's not over your head and you're bobbing through dead branches. No, you're in that like spruce forest hell. I know Andy can't say that, but I can. That it's nasty. And then I had all this wet snow falling on me, and it really, because you're going slow because it's hard to move through there. And then you got all this wet snow falling on you. You tend to get cold. That's the only time in 2 winters I actually like put extra gear on during a hike. But it's worth the effort to get over there. And so I appreciate that, even though on that bushwhack, there was some scratches and some blood. And I'll say this proudly, I was saying your name in vain about every 10 feet. Okay.
But what about the viewpoint?
Yeah. Once you got there, it was worth it. And also, I think the best hike is going to be coming up to that viewpoint from the Neversink, the East Branch.
That's too long.
No, it's not. Earlier in, was it last spring of 2024, I hiked up the East Branch with Zach and Davis and went right up into that coal area between Slide and Cornell. And then we went over to that viewpoint. Once we got up there, we had a good time. It was a great hike. We also found another viewpoint on our way up to Slide. It was
lies.
Epic.
Send it to me.
I will. I'll send you the photos. I have a photographic proof of said bushwhack and blood samples.
Andy, so I will take you up to this viewpoint. It'll be fun. So let me know when you're available on a Tuesday or a Sunday. Right. I'll take Tad from the summit. He doesn't like trails, but he likes to teach and preach about the podcast. So he should love the socialism of Slide.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you that if you want to get up there, to go up from the East Branch or what we call Pirates Ridge is cool.
And I got to admit, a lot of people underestimate that viewpoint on Slide. I think it is a phenomenal viewpoint. I'd have to say one of my top 3.
Well, there's only 3 viewpoints in the Catskills, so
no, it's just so magical. It gives you a vast variety of everything, and just I gotta admit that the bowl that it shows of Wittenberg just gives you a whole different profile of Wittenberg that people never see.
Yeah, it's a unique perspective.
That's cool.
Yeah. So, but once again, I want to say let's move on. Dry as heck. It's still dry, and I found at the end of this day is I have rechargeable devices. So recharge your headlamp if you have a USB rechargeable stuff, because it's a winter. We're coming out of winter. Your battery charger, just charge them up, for a couple hours, whatever it takes. That's my story. Beautiful day, beautiful time. Once again, actually, the one thing I gotta say, the last thing, sunscreen. Right now is the time to have freaking sunscreen on. Andy, what do I look like right now?
Kind of like your shirt, pretty red.
Red. I forgot sunscreen today, and I am beet red. I seriously regret not putting sunscreen on. I know you usually wipe it away, but I was seriously cut. My ears are on fire. My neck is on fire. Bad choice.
Yeah, we have our winter skin on right now, so we're super sensitive.
Correct. Yeah. So fantastic time. Glad everybody got out. And fantastic. Get out there. Ooh. Whew. That was a little burp. Sorry. That's Hudson North. Really good stuff. So volunteer once again, 3,500 go Catskill Trail Crew, Catskill Mountain Sub Visitor Center, Jolly Rovers Trail Crew, Building Mountain Fire Tower. Andy, can you volunteer at the Woodstock Land Conservancy?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyone who wants to volunteer, we got tons of stuff going on, different trail work days. We have invasive species management. I mean, whatever people are interested in, we certainly have an outlet for it. If anyone does want to volunteer, hit us up. info@woodstocklandconservancy.org.
That's easy. That's actually pretty easy. So I will tag that in the show notes, and everybody can help volunteer for wherever you can get to, please. So let's go over the mountain weather forecast. Even though this Tuesday, when I looked at it, it was absolutely completely different than what I thought, or what it said, really, because I thought it was going to be in the 40s, and it was in the high 50s, 60s. So I overpacked crazy like I always do. So once again, check it the day before, even though I did as well, and it wasn't the same. So it looks like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will have a mix of some clouds, light rain, and clear, but it's going to be from anywhere from 54 to 45 degrees, nothing crazy. Winds are going to be at the minimal of 20 to a low of 5 miles per hour. It looks like it's going to be a fantastic weekend to hike. Light rain. Anything and everything looks like the cloud visibility is going to be above 10,000 feet. So we're going to have a great weekend to get out and to get a hold of those peaks. Bugs might be coming out. You never know. So just pack that head net from now on. I wouldn't say the mountain, the spikes would be needed. I barely had anything to go on with slides. So slides the highest of them all. It gets the most moisture of them all. So, I mean, maybe like the east side of a Blackhead might have some ice, but I highly doubt it. So, all
Good
right.
to know.
Yeah. So let's get on to the last set of sponsors, and we'll get on to Andy. So discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Our expert staff is to hear and help every hiker from beginner to seasoned pros. We also carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenirs and gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also, vote for Camp Catskill on the chronograms at Outdoor Apparel and Gear. I posted a link up on my story on Instagram. So vote for them. Vote for Woodstock Land Conservancy as well. A bunch of these areas are on the chronograms. Let's take this home. Let's have all these awesome people that have joined us on the Catskill Mountain podcast here, and let's take this home. Also, embark on a transformative journey with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, and even backpacking. Join our supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and healing at no cost. Take your next step with Another Summit and ascend to new heights of resilience and joy. Apply today at anothersummit.org. May 2nd, they're having a Catskill base camping trip to teach you about camping in the Catskills. And on June 7th, a women's backpacking trip as well. So get a hold of anothersummit.org for any of your hiking and backpacking needs. All right, so let's get on to the guest of the night.
Let's go.
Tonight, Andy Mossey from the Woodstock Land Conservancy joins us to talk about, of course, then what other about the Woodstock Land Conservancy, what they do, how they form, stuff like that, how they preserve our areas, and where you can go to enjoy these areas that the Woodstock Land Conservancy has provided for us as hikers and for us as general public. So welcome to the show, Andy. I've already welcomed you, but welcome again.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
It's the beard. It's the beard. I'm sorry. It's the beard. I can't get over that. So, Andy, let's give a little background about yourself. You know, like how did you start off and stuff like that, and then how did you bring into the Catskills?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up in New York. I won't go too far back, but I think that's relevant for this conversation. So, grew up in New York. Studied expeditionary studies in college in the Adirondacks, and really wanted to be a guide in the outdoors. Actually, so as soon as I graduated, I got my New York State guiding license and focused my my work in more vertical realms, so like rock climbing and ice climbing and stuff. So a lot of my initial experiences in the Catskills were actually from an ice climbing perspective, and then eventually like got into doing a little bit of backcountry skiing, and then quite a lot of bushwhacking and stuff in the winter, especially during COVID. It was a really fun time to just get out and hike a bunch in the wintertime. But professional experience beyond that, I've been working in nonprofits for about 10 years or so. First started working for Leave No Trace, which you guys probably know all about. So 7 principles, if you will. Actually worked with my then girlfriend, now wife, and we traveled the country visiting all 48 of the lower states, and worked with all different land managers all across the country before finally landing back here. My wife is from Accord, originally here in Ulster County. And so we just landed back in this area, actually moved to Olive Bridge. I started working for the Catskill Center. She started working for the Department of Environmental Conservation, and spent a lot of time in the Catskills, and then eventually led me to Woodstock Land Conservancy.
Wow. So you've been all over the United States. How did you come back to New York? How did you come back to New York State? What drew you back here?
You know, it's funny. I talk to a lot of people about this, and I get a similar question. I also notice that a lot of other people tend to move away and then they come back. And there's like this weird answer where this place is a bit of a vortex. It's crazy. There's got to be some like wild energy here or something. But yeah, it's probably why. There's just like some mysterious energy drawing me back.
I agree. You know, a lot of people, a lot of my friends, you know, the older generations will move out of here and then all of a sudden reappear. And I'm like, you said you hated this spot. And they're like, yeah, but you know, it's beautiful, and you have kind of everything. You have all 4 seasons, and you have this and that. And I'm just like, but you said you hated it. And they've only explored a small portion of New York State, where we have vast amounts of areas of the Catskills, Adirondacks, Finger Lakes, you know, Great Lakes, you know, talking about the area, the Woodstock area and stuff like that, historic stuff. Like it's just like you said, it's a vortex. It sucks. I say it's a black hole.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to think about it for sure.
And
Um,
I've said I've wanted to leave here, but I'm afraid because I'm like, there's no other place like New York State where you can experience the autumn and the spring, the winter and the summer all in a year. That just you might go up to New Hampshire, but winter might hit you too quick. And like New York, it's
yeah, and they're
just
cold.
yeah. So I'm glad you're back. So like, what can you say like with your experience going in the 48s, like the other states? What can you say your experience was with Leave No Trace and stuff like that? That's phenomenal. I knew you were a Leave No Trace kind of expert, but like I didn't know that you went that far.
Yeah, it was a really cool experience. So as soon as we started that job, we took the master educator course and learned right from the staff who are based out of Boulder, Colorado, and learned a ton about Leave No Trace, but also about Western environments and desert environments and Pacific Northwest, really kind of tying all these different environments together with the idea of how to recreate in them in a responsible manner. So I learned a ton in that position. And one of the things that about that job that Steph and I really loved was that we got to see so many places. I mean, we were camping every single night out of a Subaru. And so in a tent, I mean, it was pretty rugged at times but we had a great time and we got to see some amazing gems. And the biggest takeaway for me was that even if you're in the middle of Wisconsin or wherever, you can find some really cool hidden gems. And I think that's something that a place like the Catskills can teach you, because we have these beautiful mountains, but we also have a lot of hidden gems around that are both, in my opinion, worth protecting, but also worth checking out.
Now, did that like with the Leave No Trace kind of like, I wouldn't say job, but like the education, would that lead you to the Catskill Center? Like, how did you come involved with the Catskill Center?
Yeah, sort of. So an aspect of that job with Leave No Trace was one particular program called Hotspots, which I think exists in some iteration today at Leave No Trace. But basically, the idea is the team goes to an area that's having issues. So in our case, we did this in a bunch of other states, but the one in New York that you guys will know about is the Blue Hole. And so Steph, my wife, and I, we went to the Blue Hole and we were working with the DEC, but also Catskill Center, a bunch of other amazing stakeholders. And we started listening to what the recreation-based impacts were for the Blue Hole, which there are many, as you know. And we took a bunch of notes. We visited a bunch of things. We talked with rangers. We did a bunch of trainings. And so for basically like a week straight, we had an intense Blue Hole experience. And then by the end of that week, we compiled all that information into a very long report and made a bunch of recommendations for that location. And from that, the two primary recommendations were the permit system, actually, and the steward program that the Catskill Center actually got the seed funding for the following year. And so it just so happened that Steph and I were coming off the road the next year in 2018. And so I reached out to the Catskill Center because I saw that they were starting this program. And I was like, hey, I'd love to help. And they said, great, you should run it. So I did.
No shit. I didn't know you ran the program.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff Centerman, who I'm sure you know, he basically got the funding for it and put together the idea of what a steward program could look like. And then I took that funding and basically built that program from the ground up.
Congratulations. Wow.
Yeah, thanks. And then the following year was pretty sweet. So we got, Blue Hole, a lot of education at the Blue Hole, got a lot of real moves there and trying to protect the resource as much as possible, but also make sure that the visitor experience was better, which was a balance. It was hard to do, but we were able to achieve some of those goals. And then the following year, we were able to expand to Catskill Falls and Platte Clove Preserve, and then eventually got a steward on the Devil's Path as well.
Wow.
So,
Kudos
Andy, how do you go from heading the steward program for the Catskill Center to the Woodstock Land Conservancy.
Yeah. I think my predecessor, Maxan Resnick, used to go to the Catskills-based meetings, CPAC, the Catskill Park Advisory Committee meetings. And
I've been those. Those are intense. Those are fun.
Yeah. And for a while, I was presenting at pretty much every one that was happening because of the Stewards program. And I think she liked what I was saying and how I was approaching recreation and land management. I also had a lot of experience in advocacy with my work at the Catskill Center at the state level, as well as some regional things in the Catskills. And the Woodstock Land Conservancy is a blend of outdoor education, environmental advocacy, and land protection. And so it's just a bit of a natural fit. So here I am.
And how long have you held this position?
I've been working at Woodstock Land Conservancy this is my 4th year right now. So I haven't finished it up, but yeah, it'll be 4 years in December.
Why does it, I'm sorry to interrupt, Tad, but why does it feel like, Andy, you were just at the Catskill Center? I don't know why.
Well, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, I guess I made the transition to Woodstock Land Conservancy in 2021. So it wasn't really that long ago.
So you went through the thick of the thick with the Catskill Center of the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah, totally.
So
we were trying to figure out what a stewardship program looked like in 2020, height of COVID. And what does that look like? How do we hire people? How do we keep our stewards safe? How do we keep the public safe? I mean, it was uncharted territories. Not to mention the Catskills saw their highest levels of use in recorded history during the pandemic. It was wild.
It was
crazy. So how do you think you did with the starting up the steward program? Do you think it was a success?
I mean, generally, I would say, yeah, we were successful in our mission. We were educating people. We were helping identify issues when they arose. Like, if the trails were in bad condition, either we would try and help fix it, or we would tell rangers or tell forestry staff at the DEC. And when it came to Blue Hole, I mean, that was such a problem area. I mean, I was listening to your show with Kyle Bittner not that long ago. And I heard you guys talking about Blue Hole and how there was like 20,000 people in a day. And like those numbers are real. I mean, it was insane, it was definitely that much. And that first year of the program, no one knew that a permit system existed. No one knew a stewardship program existed. So it was myself and this woman, Selena. We were the only 2 stewards that existed in that program. And we talked to everybody.
So let's before we go to the Woodstock Land Conservancy, tell us about some incidents. There must have been some with people that came to go to the Blue Hole in the height of the pandemic. Did you have to turn anybody away?
Oh my God. Yeah, I turn people away. I turned probably like 15,000 people away, man.
Yeah, you look like a pretty mild-mannered guy hiding behind that full face of beard. How did that go, turning those folks away? Any friction between you and the people that came that had to be sent away?
Sometimes there was friction. The way I would describe it is the people who are going to have a bad day were going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
But, I thought about this program and I knew that was going to be one of the major hurdles of it, was turning people away. And so we really thought about how we're going to talk to people. And much like how I'm speaking to you right now, you just treat people like people. You give people the time of day, you give people a little bit of time. But the most important thing you can do is just tell people why, what's going on. And one of the biggest issues at the Blue Hole was people littering and leaving a huge amount of food and attracting bears and all sorts of crazy impacts that we all know as experienced hikers and stuff of things you shouldn't be doing. Mm-hmm. But these are people who don't have that background. And so it requires a little bit of education, a little bit of hand-holding, but in a very kind way. And so that was very much the motto and spirit of the program. Yeah. It still is, as far as I understand.
Yeah. So. And, I 100% like education is key. And that's why I would say I started this podcast. It's just to get a little bit more education out there, to get a little bit more people to see beyond, like I know it's called inside the line, but beyond the lines of what they are used to and stuff, and then maybe to get a little bit more of like a feel of what, you know, you, me, and Tad do is teach and preach about the Catskills, what we can do to help and such like that. And, you know,
Yeah, no doubt.
yeah, and with that, you know, you move on to the Land Conservancy, the Woodstock Land Conservancy. Can you give us a little background about them?
Yeah, so Land Conservancy's been around for quite a while at this point. In 1988, they officially became an organization, and then became a full-on nonprofit in 1989. So they've been around for quite some time. And the story of the creation of the Land Conservancy I find really interesting, because I can imagine myself in the shoes of the community of Woodstock and just thinking like, okay, well, how are we going to handle this situation? Basically what happened is Xena Cornfield, not sure if you're familiar with the cornfield, but it's like 7 acres. It's at the corner of Xena Road and the road right into Woodstock. So the beautiful thing about the cornfield is that it's always been an agricultural field. You know, they call it the cornfield for a reason, right? Not super big, but one of the most beautiful things about the cornfield is you get this stunning view of Overlook Mountain. I mean, it's like right there, you know, and it's beautiful. You can see the fire tower on top. It's pretty cool. And so that cornfield was basically up for sale. And someone had moved into town and said, hey, I want to like put a bunch of apartments and condos or whatever up on this piece of property. And the community out of nowhere rallied together and pooled all their money and bought the land and protected it. And that was the official start of the Land Conservancy. Pretty rad story.
88.
Yep.
Wow. Unbelievable. So that's almost 20 years after the Woodstock Festival, and that people came together. Right. Wow. Cool as heck.
So what does the Conservancy do now? What are they up to? What's their mission, their goals, what's going on? You know, you started off by buying the Xena cornfield. Where are you now?
Yeah. So now we have about 1,000 acres that we currently protect, both in conservation easement and in fee. Basically means we own it, right? So those are our preserves. So Xena Cornfield, still a preserve, still protected to this day. The only thing that's on that property that's built is a trailhead kiosk and a picnic table so people can enjoy a nice lunch outside. And then we have several other preserves, including Israel Whitman Sanctuary. That's our largest. It's over 200 acres in size. Stunning. In the next couple of years, hopefully we'll have a new trail there, actually, that'll open up a whole new section of land for people to enjoy. But right now, there's quite a lot of trails there. There's 3 different loops that people can check out. So that's the Israel Whitman Sanctuary. Then we also have Snake Rocks Preserve in more like central Woodstock area. That one is stunning as well. There's information about that on our website. And then Sloan Gorge Preserve is probably our most popular. Really beautiful geologic area. Yeah, stunning. Should definitely check it out.
And the Conservancy acquires land, protects the land, preserves and maintains the land.
Yeah, exactly. And then we also hold conservation easements. So, private landowners, they want to see their land protected forever, but they still want to own it. And so basically what that is, for folks who don't know what a conservation easement is, they basically give Woodstock Land Conservancy the development rights of their land, which means no one will ever be able to build anything on their land ever. So they can still sell the land, but whoever buys it can't actually build anything because we own those rights essentially. And then, we've transferred a bunch of land to DEC as well. So parts of Overlook Mountain, actually vast areas of Overlook Mountain have been protected because of Woodstock Land Conservancy, as well as Bluestone Wild Forest. So yeah, we certainly try to contribute to public land as much as possible. And we're in it for not only public access for recreation, but also because we truly believe that habitat is important to protect. And a lot of the areas that we own are really rich in biodiversity. So that's a part of what we do. We also do education. We do a lot of community programming, and we do a lot of environmental advocacy and trail connectivity work. So it's a lot. We're a small organization. There's only 4 staff members, including myself.
That was my next question. How many people? 4 staff?
Yeah, there's 4 staff, but we're a small but mighty organization.
How are you looking to hire?
Yeah.
Eventually. Not
Eventually.
right now, but I would love to.
So speaking of size, putting aside the money that you raise for land acquisition or for buying easements, if you have to buy conservation easements, what's your annual budget?
It's around $350 a year, basically.
And what are the sources of funding?
Primarily individual donations from community members. That's where we get the majority of our funding. Mm-hmm. So people who live in the eastern Catskills are basically the people who support the Land Conservancy. And I am very honored to say that, actually, because that means that the community truly thinks we as an organization are worthwhile. And so we honor that commitment. Every single decision that we make, we try to do what's best, not only for our environment, but for what's best for the community.
Mm-hmm. And I understand you guys have a board of directors.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we have an awesome board.
Yeah. How many folks on the board?
We currently have 11, and there might be a couple more people joining soon.
Gotcha. So you said that you transfer land to the DEC. I know the Open Space Institute sells land to the DEC. Do you folks generally sell your land to the land you acquire to the DEC so you have more money to go out and acquire other lands, or are you just gratuitously gifting it to the state?
Yeah, usually. So what the system is in New York, I find it really interesting. So let me know if this ever gets too much. But
not all.
Basically, what happens with land conservation in the state of New York is you have a nonprofit entity. Sometimes it's a land trust. And Woodstock Land Conservancy, even though we're called a land conservancy, we're a land trust. We're nationally accredited by the Land Trust Alliance, which is an incredibly rigorous process to go through. But that being said, basically a land trust, including OSI, will identify lands that fit into the state's open space plan, which is a huge document that I've provided feedback on, and a lot of my colleagues have provided feedback on, that basically puts a plan into place for areas that the state should think about acquiring or protecting. And if the opportunity ever comes to protect those areas, then they should, basically, is what the plan says. So utilizing that, as well as our own conservation strategic plan, we identify certain parcels, and then we work with DEC. We have a great working relationship with them. And we talk about the specific areas, either that they would like to see conserved or that we would like to see conserved, and make sure that everyone is on the same page. And then once we go through our acquisition process, we're held to the standard of appraised value for land, which is not market value. So, for instance, if someone wants to sell a 5-acre parcel or a 3-acre parcel, that's a building site for someone with a home, that may go for quite a lot of money, right? But for us, it's whatever the land is worth based on that overall appraised value, which is significantly less generally than appraised value. And we're governed by the IRS in that process.
So if I understand it correctly, if I had a parcel of land that was suitable to build 100 townhouses on it, and I could sell it to a developer for $3 million, but is a parcel of land with no development potential, maybe it's worth $700,000. That's what you folks would pay me, would be the $700,000, because you're not looking at and don't get credit for when you sell it to the DEC for the development potential of the land.
Right. It's only for the conservation priority. So yeah, that's a great way to put it, Tad. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's always going to be less. A developer is always going to be willing to pay more because they have a rate of return that they're going to be able to commit to. And if they can get money out of it, then they're going to be willing to pay more. And so it gets competitive at times. Yeah. But, generally the final bit of the process is we hold the land for many years, generally at least 5 years. And then in that process, then we transfer it to the state, at which time they'll pay us appraised value at the time that we acquired it. So if we had to pay more than that, just to be able to get the land, then we're not going to get that money. It's just going to be whatever the appraised value is. And then we put that back into our land acquisition fund for other properties.
Gotcha. So why is it that it generally is 5 years between your acquisition and the transfer to the state? Is that like a mandatory holding period, or is that just how long it takes the state to go through the red tape?
Yeah, it's a lot of red tape.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Get a sticking trailhead sign as kiosk is also.
Yeah. So before I hand
Yeah.
it back to Stosh, why don't you, if you can, tell us how you guys are like the Open Space Institute and how you're different.
So Open Space Institute is a partner organization of ours. We work with them all the time on all sorts of projects. They are a very large land trust. So if you think of Woodstock Land Conservancy as your Eastern Catskills Community Land Trust, you can think of Open Space Institute as the East Coast's land trust. They focus in New York, but they stretch their work all the way down to South Carolina. So they protect a lot of land in many different areas and different ecological zones. But obviously they have a big impact here. You know, they've made a bunch of trails possible. They just added, like 3,000 acres to the Catskill Park by protecting a massive swath of land. And so we do the same thing, just on a smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
With a smaller amount of people, of course.
Yeah, way less people, way less funding.
Yeah, right.
But we always try and punch above our weight.
Yeah. So why Woodstock? What is so unique about this area that you would want to start this kind of like land trust, land conservancy area?
It's like a lot of our beautiful Catskill Mountains. The cool thing is whenever you can find a town that's kind of like nestled in some of the mountains around it, and then you feel like you're in a little bit of a mountain town. And Woodstock has that, but it's super accessible to the rest of the Mid-Hudson Valley, and trains and buses and all that sort of stuff. So for folks who need to go to and from the city, for instance, or get to an international airport, you have that. And it makes it very exciting for a lot of people. The only issue with that is, of course, then you have more people moving in and a lot of development happens. And so that's why the community wants to protect kind of its most prized gems, if you will.
So a little question that I have popping up, this is not on the agenda. I know you were with us with the Land Conservancy since 1988, but what differences have you seen, have you known of with the previous reports between 1988 and now? Have you seen a absolute astronomical surge in like people wanting to develop here up in the Woodstock area, of course, in the Catskills and stuff? Or have you seen like crazy amounts of places that people want to conserve to keep kind of public, but also conserve the area for the public?
Yeah, I think it goes both ways. From my perspective, and I obviously haven't been involved with the Land Conservancy for a huge amount of time, but we have board members who have been involved with the organization since the beginning. And so I get a lot of that firsthand information, that historical context with all the decisions that we make, which is huge for a small organization like us. And what I'd say is Woodstock looks a lot different now than it did, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And that's probably true of all of the Catskills and the Hudson Valley and other areas of the country. We're developing at a higher rate than we ever have in the history of the U.S. And it's putting a lot of pressure on our wild spaces. And especially when we think about the Catskills, of course, it's a recreation standpoint, but it's also a habitat, right? That's one of the most beautiful things about the Catskills is we have these vast areas of protected lands, which means that wildlife are hanging out in there. And in the Catskills, we have a very healthy bear population. And so we have these dynamics between people living in the mountains, and then so are the bears, and other things. And that all comes hand in hand.
Yeah. So Stasha's question, I think, kind of hits the bullseye on the Xena development that's proposed in Woodstock. Can you comment on that, or is that off limits?
Yeah, sure.
So Andy's leaning forward. He's leaning into this answer, folks.
Yeah, you can't see the video.
Yeah, he's like, yeah. I'll take this question. This is like a lob ball to Aaron Judge. Okay.
Yeah, so there is a collection of parcels that the Land Conservancy has thought as a major priority for us to protect, basically since its inception. And it's 624 acres of land right in the town of Woodstock, but it also does spill into the town of Ulster a little bit. Beautiful location. It's actually completely adjacent to the southern part of Israel Whitman Sanctuary. And based on our work there, we know that this land is really special. It's gorgeous. So anyway, a couple of years ago at this point, a group came in, said that they were going to buy the land, and they called themselves Woodstock National at the time. And so people may have seen, if they're driving around the Woodstock area, a bunch of red signs all over that said "Stop Woodstock National," because they wanted to propose an 18-hole golf course and like 500 or 600 units of housing and stuff, and completely fragment a pristine area of forest. So, I told you about how the Land Conservancy came to be, right? With Xena Cornfield and protecting the cornfield. That spirit of the Land Conservancy still exists today. So as soon as we found out that this land was going to be developed in a very major way, we just immediately got our wheels turning and pulled together a bunch of people. And I started a committee basically to work on it, a coalition. And I asked Susan Painter, who is an excellent colleague of mine, to be co-chair. And she actually helped to stop Terramore, which was a glamping type group that wanted to do the same thing, but on a smaller scale, on a smaller piece of land, and divide it up into a bunch of like glamping sites. But she was successful in stopping that, and she was a really wonderful person to work with. So we started this volunteer coalition, still exists today, still very vigorous. And now Woodstock National calls themselves Xena Development. They changed their name because they got rid of the idea of dropping the golf course, which we told them that they should do. And they were like, well, if we're not going to have the golf course, then we're going to do Xena Development now. But part of it may have been a PR move. We'll never know for sure.
Just an FYI, everybody, you can see the Xena area that you can hike on the Venza maps. It actually shows it outside the blue line, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I can see that right below the Thorn Preserve, correct?
It's right. It's to the east of Thorn Preserve, actually.
Okay. Yep. Okay. Cool. Yeah.
Yep.
So check out on.
So technically in the blue line. Yeah.
Yeah.
So Andy, what's the status of this development project and your group's efforts to protect it?
Did we? Sorry, Andy. Did we talk about this before? Was this one of our?
Yeah. We've brought this up a couple times.
Okay.
And I just made the connection when Andy starts talking about this. I'm like, oh no, there is in Woodstock. There's this hot topic of somebody wanting to, do what I'm going to call a large scale development. I mean, technically in New York State, whenever you're over 50 homes upstate without municipal services, you're large scale. So Andy, take the ball. Where's this stand, and what can our hiking community do to help you guys?
I'm really glad you asked. So the first thing that people should know is there is a website called stopxenadevelopment.org. You can go to that website. It's managed by our coalition, and you can get all the update information. We're really good about keeping it updated, and you can also sign up for a newsletter. So if there's any like action thing to show up to, so like a planning board meeting, town board meeting, some other thing happening, a rally, whatever, you'll be the first to know if you sign up for our email newsletter. So definitely do that. Where the development stands now. The two developers, the two primary principals, their names are Eddie and Evan. Generally speaking, they're actually really nice guys. I would definitely have a beer with them if it weren't for this situation. But, they basically want to destroy prime habitat. So not going to do that, Anyway, they have rolled back their project significantly at this point. And now they want to develop the easternmost portion of their land in the town of Ulster, technically. And they want to build a bunch of houses and duplexes, as well as a small recreation facility with like a couple pickleball courts and stuff, and start an HOA in the middle of this pristine habitat. So it's, completely fragmenting land. The thing that's kind of wild to me is that they want to build a road from Xena Highwoods Road all the way into this town of Ulster parcel that's over a mile long.
Wow.
And nobody around, no neighbors around. It's in the middle of conserved lands. You have Israel Whitman Sanctuary to the north. You have Ruby Rod and Gun Lands, which is a hunting club to the east and west and south. Excuse me, east and south. It's all protected land, and they want to just stick a major housing development right in the middle of it still. They're not talking about developing the Woodstock lands, which are still over 500 acres of land. But, give them an inch, they'll take a mile. You know what I mean?
So where do the New York State DEC's most recent rendition of wetlands protection laws, how does that impact this project? Anybody look into that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it helps. It helps a lot.
Helps you guys, helps you conserve more land or prevent them from building on certain land because it's protected.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for folks who don't know, the wetlands regulations recently changed as of the first of the year. And then actually next year they'll change again and become more stringent. But one of the most important changes that happened on the first of the year is in the past, whenever DEC would look at wetlands, the wetlands had to already exist on the wetland mapper. They had to have already been surveyed, basically. And there are a lot of areas, especially in the Catskills, where that isn't the case. I mean, there's tons of wetlands that have just never been mapped before. Mm-hmm. And so in this case, it's helpful because that new regulation change basically allows the DEC to say, to assess it and then say, oh yeah, no, this fits within to the parameters.
So before I guess we won't go any deeper into I'm not going to say the weeds, but any deeper into this issue. But what's the website that folks can check out again if they want to stay up to date on this and maybe make a contribution or donation to the cause?
Don't you write this stuff down, Tad, like I do?
No, I don't.
StopXenaDevelopment.org.
There you go.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Okay.
You can also, I think you can get to it from the Woodstock Land Conservancy.org website too, if needed.
Yeah, it's definitely something to look into, of course.
Yeah, no, I look at the map here and I see the Bluestone Wild Forest, just, all around this project. And then the Ruby Rod and Gun Club, the Israel Whitman.
Yeah, I'm looking at that too.
Yeah, this is not the right place to do some level of density like this, and to have like what we call a package plant for wastewater treatment. Yeah,
totally. I mean, the goal is to make all of that part of the Bluestone Wild Forest. I mean, that is without a doubt my goal. I would love to see all of that become part of the Bluestone Wild Forest and part of the Catskill Park.
Yeah. So why can't you guys get together with the municipalities and they do issue some bonds and buy this land and then sell it back to the DEC in a few years and pay off the bonds?
Well, that's a potential idea. The only issue with that is these developers need to sell it to us. And right now they're not willing to sell it to us. They're willing to potentially maybe sell us parts of the land. But
Andy, you got to listen to our episodes where we talk about how the city of New York came up here and used eminent domain to kill entire communities and build reservoirs. Okay. So
I don't know if
Are
that's
you
the
saying
case.
eminent domain for this property?
Yeah, you just make it into a park. That's a public purpose, right? You're going to make it into a park. So that gives you the authority under the state law to use eminent domain. And you have your hearing, you file your map, you do your bond issuance, you buy the land. So,
well, I think you should come and make a public comment at the next planning board meeting.
Yeah, Andy, I know a guy that can give you the game plan for that. So,
right on.
Pretty sure his name is Tad. Jesus Christ.
Maybe, I don't know. My cousin.
So I have Land Conservancy, a trust company. How do they is it very similar in sort of terms and stuff like that? We hear a lot of I hear a lot of land trust around the area where I live, but I don't hear about Land Conservancy. Is it basically the same general rule?
Yeah, it's more or less the same thing. It's just a different name.
Okay.
So, yeah, I don't know why, but Woodstock decided to call themselves a land conservancy instead of a land trust. But we easily could have been a land trust. And there are a bunch of other land trusts in our immediate area that are similar to what we do. Not quite, but, there's tons of land trusts in New York. We actually have one of the highest amounts or the most amount of land trusts anywhere in the country in terms of just at the state level. It's pretty
Wow.
sweet.
So how do you work with like private owners? How does this come about? Like, I'm guessing there's a certain level of like trust between you and the land conservancy and the owner and stuff that you guys kind of trust all around of each other to preserve this area and stuff like that you provide.
Yeah, I mean, a landowner basically has to be motivated to protect their land. I mean, in whatever capacity, even if they're selling the land to us or another land trust, they have to understand the value of it from a conservation perspective and what that means for people to have it protected forever. Um, we're so fortunate to have the Catskills protected by Article 14 of the New York State Constitution, but there's tons of other lands that have been stewarded in very similar fashions that are just owned by private citizens. And it's those private citizens that say, okay, well, I think after I pass or in the future, I really want to make sure that this is protected so that other people can enjoy it just like I did. So it's in my opinion, it's a truly selfless act when someone decides, okay, I want to protect this place.
Yeah. So, Andy, I recently, Tad, you can understand this because we talked to you. I applied for a land trust position with an area up near me, and it just didn't fit me because the travel commute, the stuff like that, the hours and stuff. I had it made of where I am right now, but I understood where the land trust comes in, and up near Otsego County, we have a bunch of areas, that are very critical to kind of preservation and stuff like that. And now looking at what they did and what you guys do is absolutely critical down there and up here as well. I kind of respect that a little bit more. If you look into land trust, land conservancy, I respect a lot of what you guys do because once again, like the people give their property to you and they're like, preserve this. Like you said, if I pass, this is kind of your area now. Like, help me out, and it's absolutely phenomenal. And I didn't understand that before I applied for this job. So, can you kind of like explain a little bit of the background behind that of why people like donate that land to you guys or sell it to you guys to kind of preserve it? Because it's crazy to think that somebody would be like, hey, here's my land for this amount of price, preserve it, make a trail, stuff like that.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's times where land is protected by conservation easement, and someone is like, I still want to own this land. I want to be able to walk on it whenever I want, and maybe I'm not looking for other people to access it right now at this point in my life. I want to have that privacy for my family. Totally fine. We can still protect it by putting a conservation easement on, and then we know it's not going to be built on, basically. So that's one avenue, and that someone may be motivated to protect it in that way. And then there may be, someone else who wants to donate the land or sell us the land, whatever. And that then they may approach us. And then there are other times where we recognize that there are specific areas of lands or mountains or wetlands, whatever, that we've identified as being pretty darn critical to climate resiliency, habitat, et cetera, recreation access. I mean, it all fits into it. And we're like, okay, well, let's think about this. Maybe we know who that person is. We have a conversation. They say, no, definitely not interested. Then that's that, right? But if they're like, actually, most times people are like, actually, I have thought about what it would be like to protect this. And that would be a really cool thing to do. I have no idea how to do that. Can we talk about it? And it takes a very long time, a lot of conversations. And then eventually, if it works out, then it's a really beautiful thing. And that's kind of like this new preserve that we're opening up in West Hurley, really close to the Ashokan Rail Trail. It's a stunning location. It's small, though. Like I mentioned, it's only 30 acres. But the person who owned that before the Land Conservancy really only wanted to give it to the Land Conservancy, to Woodstock Land Conservancy, if we were willing to turn it into a public preserve. And so it came with a little bit of strings attached. We're like, okay, well, we have to genuinely think about this and make sure that when we take on ownership of this land, we actually put forward a plan for us to know exactly how we're going to get to that point and make it into a public preserve that's open for everybody.
So different owners or different people that are willing to sell their land have different thoughts of where they want to conserve, maybe make this into a trail, preserve this for like nothing and stuff just to keep it for the land. And then there are the others' thoughts. And so it's a thoughtful process for you guys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a little bit of a playbook that we have come up with over the years just with experience, and being a part of the greater Land Trust Alliance community certainly helps. But generally, it's these individual relationships that we hold within the community. And that's what it's all about. I mean, it's people and it's nature, and it's combining the two to make a real difference.
Wow. It's crazy, the connection. Like I said, I've said this always, Tad, this is the connection of the Catskills, the people we have here. It's tight. The community is so tight.
Agreed. So, Andy, we've been doing this for almost 2 hours now. Let's talk about the gems of your collection. What are the golden nuggets of the properties that you guys have acquired, protected, and that are accessible to our listeners? And, tell us why the Mount Tobias acquisition, thrills you, and why we should go there, and what our experience will be like there. And then let's just go down the list to Snakes Rocks Preserve, Sloan Gorge, which sounds intriguing, etc.
Yeah.
So tell us about the Mount Tobias acquisition. What's going on with that?
Sure, we can start there. So that's a really recent acquisition that's still in process. Actually, we're set to close on the property soon, but we currently do not own it. And the goal for that property is to basically create connection to the top of Mount Tobias, actually from the Catskills Visitor Center. So, if you have a map of Mount Tobias and you're looking at it, you can see this southwest ridge line that goes from the summit and almost in like a straight shot goes all the way down to the Catskills Visitor Center on 28, even though it does have to pass, Wittenberg Road right there. So the goal is to basically create access to the top of Mount Tobias one day. And this is one of many parcels that will need to be acquired in order to make that happen. So this is a part of a long-term plan. Unfortunately, it's not going to be open to the public for a very long time until DEC eventually takes ownership of it in the future and builds a trail. But for now, we're just taking all the steps that we can in this moment to plan for the future and eventually give us all a trail up to the top of Mount Tobias.
Excellent.
That's one hell of a gain that goes from 750 feet to 2,500 feet. So that's 1,800 feet a gain. That's a hell of a hike. That's a Catskill hike.
Yeah, full on.
Nice. That would be fantastic. That'd be a hell of a hike. Keep going. What else do you got for us?
What's the next one you want to tell us about that's accessible at the present time? And if one of our listeners, let's say somebody who normally hikes the higher mountains or summits in the Cats, but doesn't have a full day to do it, something that they can come up to the Catskill area and have a good time hiking it without being out on the trail for 4, 6, 8 hours.
Yeah, so I usually think about my recreation experiences like front country versus back country. And you guys probably know these terms, right? So like back country, more wilderness experience. Front country is like closer to the road and easy to navigate and so on. If you're looking for more of a backcountry experience, but in a short amount of time, check out Israel Whitman Sanctuary. It's stunning. It's over 200 acres in size. Chances are, if you go there, especially on a weekday, you probably won't run into anybody, so you'll have the trail to yourself. And if you do run into somebody, it'll be like one person. It's beautiful. The only thing about Israel Whitman Sanctuary that's really important for people to understand is that dogs are not allowed there. And the reason is because when that land was donated to Woodstock Land Conservancy, the owner wanted to make sure that it was a full habitat and very protected habitat. So hunting not allowed there and dogs are not allowed there. And it's really just so that all of the birds and little critters and everything have a really protected space. So people certainly go there, check it out. There's stunning trails. I mean, really beautiful trails. Unfortunately, I can't bring your pup though.
Yeah.
So that's Israel Whitman Sanctuary.
So how much time would I expect to spend there to kind of get the full flavor of Israel Whitman?
If you're going to check out all the trails, give yourself maybe 2 hours, maybe a little bit more.
Okay.
I'd say it depends on. I mean, you guys are probably pretty fast hikers, so you could do it in 2 hours.
Stosh is, I take a lot of photos and vegetate in the woods.
Outrageous? No, not at all.
Yeah.
Find a place to nap.
Yeah. So tell us about the Snake Rock Preserve.
Yeah, Snake Rock Preserve. That's off of Yeri Hill Road. The parking is on the road itself, and then you have to go up. You have to walk up a little private road to get there. So it's a little bit of tricky access, but the directions are on our website, so check that out before you go. And then there's a really beautiful trail up there, great views of the eastern Catskills. So you get wonderful views back outside of like Tasatonic and some of those other hills on that side. So certainly worth checking out. It goes through some quarry lands as well with a beautiful vernal pool in the quarry lands. It's really, really nice. So much shorter trail, but a really beautiful preserve.
How much time should I budget for the Snake Rocks area?
A little bit less. You could probably do the whole thing in an hour, I would say.
Nice.
Yep.
So what about the Sloan Gorge?
Yeah, Sloan Gorge, that's definitely our most popular. And it has a really nice loop trail in there that goes through a really deep gorge area. Lots of stone trail work to make it accessible. And that's a little bit bigger. So I would say like 1.5 hours are probably realistic in that location. And we have like a little geological trail that you can take it's really kid friendly. So if you're going with kids, you can follow along with the geological trail and learn all about the different rock outcroppings and stuff like that.
Andy, you didn't mention where this is.
This is
Woodstock,
actually in Saugerties, technically. Yeah.
Okay. Can we find it on like Avenza and stuff like that?
Yeah, totally. And the maps that
there it is. I see it. Never mind.
Yeah, you got it. Nice.
Right off looks like the Saugerties Woodstock Road 33.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all your stuff is on the Avenza maps. So like anybody can access this stuff if they have an awesome like day hike planned, or they don't want to go too crazy enough. They can just check out all these places within the Woodstock area, Woodstock Land Conservancy, Israel, the Xena, Sloan Gorge. My God, you guys have 4 people. You're busy as heck.
Yeah, man. We sure are. The board, I've got to say, helps out a huge amount. I mean, they're all volunteer, but they basically pour, blood, sweat, and tears into the organization to keep things moving forward. So it certainly keeps us motivated.
And with your knowledge coming in from the Catskill Center and, having to do with Leave No Trace, just cascades into this. And it's just grateful to have you and was it Maria that helped us contact us together to hook us up?
Oh, Miranda. Yeah.
Miranda. Sorry. Yeah. So Miranda helped us contact us together and stuff like that. That was very helpful to get us going in this, because I've heard of your organizations before, but reaching out it's difficult at times. So you're a very busy guy. I gotta admit, Andy, I couldn't even imagine of how much stuff you have to deal with. Gotta keep it professional. Gotta keep it professional.
Yeah, thanks.
So what else? What else with the Woodstock Land Conservancy can you say? Like, how can we help out? How can we contribute from Catskills hikers to help you guys?
Well, if you're interested, or anyone is interested in volunteering and either helping to create some trail or take care of trail, or help with invasive species, or help with educational programs, maybe you find birding super interesting and you'd like to teach a course, then definitely hit us up. info@woodstocklandconservancy.org is the email address. And just let us know that you're interested in volunteering, and we'll put you on the list. And we have a lot of amazing volunteers, super fun, and we keep people engaged as much as possible and make it a fun experience when people volunteer. And Miranda, actually, who you guys were talking to line this up, she's fantastic, and she's been really helping with all of our volunteers to make people feel really great about doing some awesome work for us.
Yeah, does she run the Instagram page?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's been doing a great job. Gotta admit.
Yeah, heck yeah. Yeah, between her and then Keisha, who is our communication and outreach manager, they're doing a fantastic job with our Wednesday weekly. We have so much information on our weekly email newsletter. It's mind blowing the amount of stuff that Keisha is able to include in that. So that's another way to get involved with the Land Conservancy. Sign up for our email newsletter, stay in the know, and we post all sorts of wild stuff in there. Stuff directly in Woodstock. But a lot of times we're also talking about things at the state level, environmental advocacy stuff that's coming up. Maybe it's Environmental Protection Fund or, talking about plastics and single-use things and how people can be better informed. So that newsletter has a ton of really good information. So definitely check that out.
Nice. That's fantastic. Anything that could help within the Catskills to do is just fantastic. And, with that, we come about our last question. My last question, post hike brews and bites. Andy, you have been all over the Catskills and stuff like that. What can you say is your favorite local area to grab something to eat, something to drink, stuff like that, business, stuff like that you want to recommend for people to stop to when they're visiting the Catskills?
Oh man, there's so many. How do you choose just one?
Right.
I mean, we talked about Westkill, and I love Westkill. I mean, at the end of the road, you're just up in the mountains. If you hike, you hike Hunter, and then you could go over to Westkill. You could just keep going forever, and then you end your day at Westkill Brewery and have a great time. So, I mean, that's probably one of my favorite spots to go.
Gotta admit,
Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Sounds good. Well, Andy, it was great having you on the show, and we're going to have to check out what your organization has got going on and help you guys out, because you help us out.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll certainly post it.
Yeah. I look forward to having you again on the future to when you get future developments going on, and we have future areas for our hikers that can come up and explore the areas, outside of the Woodstock area. And, once again, Andy, I thank you for joining us, not only joining us on the show, for all of the things that you have done for the Catskills and for Leave No Trace and stuff like that. It's just phenomenal, your background education that just brings it to that we have here in the Catskills. I'm just blown away, Thank you.
Thanks, Dash. Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thank you for joining me for joining us for, what is it? Almost 2.5 hours.
Yep. Thanks, Andy.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for everything you guys do. Appreciate you having you on, and appreciate everything you do to promote and protect our hiking and nature community.
Correct.
Thanks, Dad. Yeah. You guys are awesome. Thanks for having such a good platform for all these crazy Catskillers.
Yeah, I enjoy having fun. I was talking today about it. My love for the Catskills is why I do it. So, and it's just phenomenal. And, I just want to thank you to everyone who is still listening. Thank you, whoever the monthly supporters and monthly sponsors and everybody who's donated. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Andy, for joining us on the show, taking your time out and having a good old Westkill brew with us and chatting about the Woodstock Land Conservancy that helps protect the area. So have a good night. Thank you once again.
Good night, guys.
Night.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this, you gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
wicked.